First off, Governor Siminalayi Fubara of Rivers State has defected to the All Progressives Congress, APC, from the People's Democratic Party, PDP. He announced this at a stakeholders meeting at the Government House in Port Harcourt on Tuesday. Fubara said he decided to leave the PDP to support President Bola Tinubu of the APC, saying that he would have become a former governor without Tinubu's support. His defection came 4 days after the Speaker of the Rivers State House of Assembly, Martins Amiwule, and 16 others who left the PDP for the APC.
Nobody be fooled in this state. We have the people, we have the supporters, and we have the number. Our only thank you to Mr. President is to support him. And we cannot support Mr. President in isolation. And we can't support Mr. President if we don't fully identify with him, not backyard support. So we have taken that decision today since we've gotten the pass. Everyone here who have followed me, who have suffered with me, our decision today, this evening, we are moving to APC.
But in a swift reaction, the People's Democratic Party has described the defection of Governor Fubara of Rivers State as pitiful, saying it exemplifies the old legal maxim that to one who is willing, no harm can be done. In a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Inni Ememobong, the PDP said Fubara should have nothing less than praise for the party, civil society organizations, and all Nigerians who freely stood up in his defense until he capitulated. The PDP said democracy is terribly threatened by acts of this kind, and all well-meaning people should unify in condemning this progressive decline of democratic norms. The party called on Nigerians and the global community to oppose the ignoble trip toward electoral authoritarianism. Moving on from Rivers to Osun, where the state governor, Ademola Adeleke, has officially joined the Accord Party days after leaving the People's Democratic Party. The governor made the announcement on Tuesday at the Government House in the presence of national and state leaders of the Accord Party. Adeleke also revealed his intention to seek re-election for a second term on the platform of the Accord Party, stating that he joined the party more than a month ago because its mission of welfarism aligns with his administration's focus on citizens and workers' welfare.
Today, we unveil the new platform for the good people of Osun State, from Osun West to Osun East to Osun Central. This is our party, our new platform for victory come August next year. Osun voted for good governance in 2022 and they will support continuity in 2026. The mass of our people are for continuity, and Accord is our party for victory next year.
In other news, the Nigerian Senate has granted express approval to President Bola Tinubu's deployment of military troops to the Republic of Benin on a peace mission following the attempted coup in the neighboring West African country. Senate's approval follows a presidential request contained in a letter read at plenary in line with constitutional provisions and ECOWAS security protocol. Arise correspondent Omo Bazwaye tells us more.
The wave of military coups in Africa struck once again, and this time in Nigeria's tiny West African neighbor, Benin Republic, in the early hours of Sunday. Several soldiers of the Benin Armed Forces, led by Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigri, took to streets shooting sporadically and eventually announcing the overthrow of Beninese President Patrice Talon on national television, after an attack on Talon's residence in Cotonou. Within hours, the coup was quickly thwarted by loyalist forces with support from the Nigerian military, prompting an ECOWAS standby force to deploy even more security. In line with a request by the government of Benin and in exercise of its constitutional powers, Nigeria's President Bola Tinubu writes to the Senate requesting approval to deploy military troops on peace mission to the neighboring country. Tinubu says his decision follows due consultation with the National Defense Council.
I seek further to consultation with the National Defense Council, the consent of the Senate for the deployment of Nigerian troops to the Republic of Benin.
President Tinubu also adds that the request is urgently required so as to immediately deploy Nigerian military personnel as requested by Benin's President Patrice Talon. As a major force in the ECOWAS sub-region, Tinubu notes that the situation in Nigeria's next-door neighbor requires swift external intervention in the spirit of mutual cooperation between both nations and in line with ECOWAS security protocols.
The government of the Republic of Benin is currently faced with an attempted unconstitutional seizure of power and disruption and destabilization of democratic institutions.
The Nigerian Senate then swiftly committed the president's request to the Committee of the Whole and wasted no time in granting approval for military intervention in Benin, despite calls from Senator Siraki Dixon for a robust debate on the matter and the need for good governance by elected leaders across Africa.
I have thought that with the communication of Mr. President, which has been read this morning, that we will discuss the validity and the appropriateness and add value to it, because the whole essence is for that communication to be debated, for it to enjoy legitimacy.
Sorry, you are wrong. All the senators here that gave consent are aware of the content of that letter. They would not have given consent if they were not in agreement with the president's request.
Without the issue being debated, a voice note eventually led to a unanimous resolution being reached even as senators took turns to commend President Bola Tinubu for his quick and decisive action to restore democracy in Benin Republic. Senate leader Okpeyemi Bamidele clarifies the action of the president.
Today, what we have done was to respond in compliance with the provision of section 5 sub 5, because the president requested for our consent on what was done in Benin Republic.
The Senate subsequently resolved that a formal letter of approval be dispatched immediately to the president to sustain the military action in Benin Republic. Omo Bazwai, Arise News.
The president of the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, Omar Toure, says the region is in a state of emergency, warning that nearly every country in the region now faces risks ranging from military intervention to terrorist expansion and rising geopolitical pressure. Toure was speaking at the 55th session of the ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council in Abuja.
The country-by-country analysis of our member states show different risk levels across our community, from high to medium, with an average of high risk for our community, thereby demanding immediate and concerted action.
All right, so a number of stories to get into this morning, Rufai, Dr. Abati. Of course, starting off with the story around the government, similar to Fubara, yes, I was trying to think around democracy, going from defections in River State, Osun State, and then moving on to Benin Republic. We had asked yesterday, or still question around the president writing to the Senate to formally seek approval for sending troops to Benin Republic. And then, of course, we have other stories yesterday in the news. Rufai, your take on these stories this morning?
Let me quickly start with the Senate case. I'm not happy with what I saw yesterday. It just confirmed that the Senate is a rubber stamp. And Dr. Abati, for those that were challenging you, I'm sure they are disgrace It's obvious now on national TV. The presidency had to transmit the letter to the Senate. For those that were speaking all sorts of English, so you win the point of this, and I'm sure they are terribly disgraced, all the, what you call them, ambulance lawyers, and all sorts of social commentators. I'm not happy with what I see in the Senate. It's obvious the Senate is a rubber stamp. Irrespective of the fact that I support that decision by President Tinubu to be able to safeguard Benin because of the proximity to Nigeria. But it was also supposed to be up for a robust debate. There must be dissenting voice. And that's why you see, it's now obvious. The reason why we didn't invade Niger, because there are cultural ties with people in the north. Because you see, once we started this invasion of Benin, when you have another skirmish, why don't you met out the same treatment? But because people protested in the north, they said it's a no-go area. This same Senate rejected it. That time, they opened it up for a debate. But this one, the dissenting voices, they said no to it. See the way Seraki Dixon was shot down. It's a matter of national importance. We are sending our troops abroad. We are doing something that affects our sovereignty as a nation. That we also have repercussions of our sovereignty. And they just brushed this aside. So it speaks volumes about the trend we are increasingly seeing in this country, where the Senate has become rubber stamp. And please, this idea of a voice vote is inimical to democracy. It's not going to cost us anything. These guys earn billions. They bring billions to the Senate. Their budget is worth over $1 billion. They should buy an electronic voting system so that we know who voted in favor of what. How can we have an entire Senate of a country as big as Nigeria and we don't even have the voting record of senators? Because this Senate, the way it is, does not give voices to dissenting voices. So it's not just a sweeping thing. And you know, when some people want it, they get it. When some people don't want it, they don't get it. And for the ECOWAS person speaking English, as far as I'm concerned, what does the Hausa people even call it? Is it Turuwanji or something? You know, when you are speaking very fine English. Turinchi. Speaking English. You're telling people that West African continent, West Africa is inundated with lots of coups. We need to declare and say, which yes state of emergency, where you have Yahoo boys as leaders in African country. What did he tell? What did he say to Talon when Talon started being high-handed in Benin? What has he said to Alisa Ouattara? What has he said to leaders that rig election? What has he said to Furo Iyadema that has followed in his father's footsteps, Nasingbe, to set up something called a Council of Ministers, which is the president. And he now puts a puppet president there. And 80-something-year-old man for that matter. If you check who is the president of Togo now, you see a certain Tovi, 80-something-year-old man. But the main person that has the power is Furo Iyadema. So when all of these leaders are doing all of these things, they don't know that it's going to bring about a blowback. And this Toure is speaking Turinji, telling us English, lecturing us on the tenets of democracy. Go and lecture the Yahoo boys that are leaders on the African continent. The tenets of democracy, they should do things right. If they do things right, we will not have the enabling environment for all these coups. I don't support coups. But the leaders too must act right. Thirdly, you said Fubara said nobody supported
No,
him.
he said he just said thank you to the president.
No,
he wouldn't have been...
He said
would
no,
have been a former governor.
I think he also said nobody in
Okay,
PDP
I'm not sure about
supported
that.
him.
About him saying that...
Does
making that
Fubara
statement.
have amnesia? Did he forget that PDP governors went to court to challenge the impeachment, the state of emergency? Did he forget? Did he forget that the judiciary held on to that case? They didn't listen to it. It was after the state of emergency elapsed that the judiciary brought that case out. Did he forget? So what is it that the PDP didn't help? Didn't they go to court? Did he forget? Fubara is just like any other Nigerian politician. You see, Fubara reminds me of that your sister in Lagos State.
I know my sisters.
No, your sister, the speaker at a point in Lagos State.
They once had the surname Thompson. I'm not sure about.
No, the one you were supporting now that Obasa must not come back. Obasa must not come back. That you were saying she should be there, first female speaker. Fuba just reminded me of her that after they removed her, what did she say? Oh, Reni. She was not thanking the people that removed her. You see, there is no integrity in political sphere in Nigeria. But what do you expect? Wasn't EFC chasing Fubara before he became governor? So what do you expect? I'm asking you. He went to thank his oppressor now. Abi?
He said it helped him, that he would have been ex-governor but for the help of
It's better is ex-governor with dignity than to go back and thank the same oppressor. Fubara has amnesia, selective amnesia. He forgets the first deal that President Tinubu brought forward to the table, Primo tell him to cede power. It was people like us that were speaking on TV saying, no agree. Before he had sense then. Is it not the same deal President Tinubu implemented by giving him a state of emergency, stripping him of his powers, allowing that same house to run against him? I mean, we thought he had spine before now. But they used what they were going to use. The judiciary ruled against him. That's why he was kowtowed. Didn't the same Fubara organize another political party? What's the name of that political party? Do local government elections that the court cancelled? So and I kept on saying it that time, we're not speaking for Fubara, we're speaking for the seats of the governor. Because President Tinubu that declared that state of emergency, that aberration, nobody could have done that to him in Lagos. Just like his wife that went to tell Governor Jackson Adeleke to keep quiet off the mic, disrespected the governor in his town. Nobody could have done that to Tinubu as governor of Lagos. He will never accept such a thing. And that's why the early 2000s in this country, everybody was shouting Tinubu, Tinubu, because he stood tall as a great opposition against Olusegun Obasanjo. And that's what people wanted. But today, he's stifling any of such voices. So Fubara has gone to meet people that oppressed him. Maybe we shout, we spoke, we shouted. State of emergency. He got out of it. After they stripped him for 6 months, they said they used to recalibrate things. So he has gone to join the APC now. Will that guarantee him a second term? Only time will tell. If the lawmakers to have joined the APC, the same people that were against him are the ones now that are now paddy with him after they have destroyed him to a stage. The last point, as regards Mr. Jackson, it just shows the disintegration of the PDP. And I think what a lot of governors are thinking, despite the fact that PDP says he's put his hands in order, is that they are not sure and they are not certain of what the court will rule. Because this is their fight between two factions. We still reach a Supreme Court, and this convention they did. It's because people are not certain. So Jackson wants to quickly go to accord. But will he be able to use accord to do a second time? Or will he dance Michael Jackson with accord?
That's Governor Ademola Adeleke.
Yes.
Okay.
Will he dance Michael Jackson? Because, he named Jackson because he likes to dance Michael Jackson. Okay. Put Michael Jackson in his name. And I think maybe he lives somewhere called Jackson, Florida. I don't know. Maybe my brain is just touching. So, truth has to be said. It's only time that will tell. Okay. But a lot of people have also said, maybe because he didn't see a space in the APC. But let's see how the political dynamics play out. At least for the very first time, we saw Accord gaining somebody.
All right.
Okay, first, let it be on record that Nigeria did not invade the Republic of Benin. This narrative that Nigeria invaded the Republic of Benin is not true. That's number one. What happened was that the authorities in Republic of Benin called for help from President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. First, to send the Air Force to occupy their airspace to make it difficult for the coup plotters to operate. Second, to send ground troops working in concert with the Beninese military command to secure constitutional institutions. It was a weekend, Sunday morning. I imagine that the coup plotters will have known the Nigerian situation. They will have imagined that, look, President Tinubu cannot summon the National Assembly immediately on Sunday to get the approval. However, our Constitution provides a leeway. It says that if the president of Nigeria has to go, some people say guns are blazing, or send troops abroad, it will need the concurrence of the National Assembly. I've said this and again, that it is to prevent the Nigerian presidency becoming a dictatorship. It is also to ensure accountability. But some illiterates take one phrase inside the Constitution and they go to town. Lawyers are not trained like that. Lawyers are trained to do what is called a community reading. You don't isolate one part of the Constitution. That's not what they teach in constitutional law. However, in Section 5 sub 5, the Constitution says the president, if he now acts within the province of a limited combat duty, under which framework the expedition in Republic of Benin will fall, he now has 7 days within which to go to the National Assembly and seek the ratification of the National Assembly. I said on this program that I expected that by Monday morning, the Nigerian government will have gone straight to the National Assembly to say, this is what we have done. These are the reasons. These are our explanations. And for the National Assembly to either ratify or reject the action. But in this particular case, the National Assembly, the Senate, I said, okay, we ratify it. However, the limited combat duty that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu embarked upon, whatever the Senate wanted to decide, had been rendered academic because Nigeria had already gone to Republic of Benin on invitation and had helped to foil the coup. So the act had already been done. Anything after that is academic. So what the Senate did...
I think we still have troops on ground in Benin.
Well, if we still have troops on the ground, I've said it before on this program. Even if we have troops on the ground, now the Senate of the Federal Republic has given the approval that Nigeria has an obligation, depending on the reasons that have been given by the president, to stay there and help Republic of Benin. In the case of Niger in 2023, this same Senate rejected the request to be part of a West African force. But significantly, the law has been followed. The presidency has protected itself by getting that ratification. The issues about whether it's a rubber stamp assembly is a different issue altogether that we continue to address on this table. Number 2, Fubara and Governor of Osun State. I'll deal with the 2 issues. Governor Fubara was suspended March 18 to September 18. Now, a few days ago, about 72 hours ago or more, the members of the Rivers State House of Assembly defected from the PDP to APC, meaning that he had become a loner as governor. Now, on Monday, he went to see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Yesterday, he said he too is joining the APC. It makes sense. It's all about political survival. He was saying that, we have to move from where we are to where it will be better for Rivers State. No, where it will be better for him. He wants a second term. And that's the question that is still in the air. Now that he has joined the APC, will he get the second term? 2, this is a clear affirmation of the fact that Nyesom Wike, Minister of the FCT, who has refused to leave Rivers as the godfather, has won. He's the winner of the game. He's the owner of the game in Rivers State. 3rd question, who is now going to be the leader of this APC party in Rivers State? Will it be Fubara? Will it be Minister Wike? But if you look at it, let's go quickly to Osun State. In Osun State, for Governor Ademola Adeleke, it's also a question of survival. There's no way he could go to the APC. Even the APC in Osun State is troubled. 6 of their persons who are interested in the December 16 APC primaries, they've been suspended. Omishore is saying it is a joke. The other people are saying nobody can suspend them. So will he go to a troubled party and a party that has even withheld local government allocations to his government since February 2025? Now, the PDP, which is the party on which platform he became a senator, he became a governor, that party is also divided. Okay? Yeah. So divided to the extent that you don't even know which faction of the party will be recognized by INEC. So he refused to take part in the primaries of the PDP. But the primaries took place. Okay, if you are taking part and then INEC comes tomorrow and says on the basis of fresh evidence and these facts, then PDP has no candidate, then he will be in a trouble space. Mm-hmm. So he has now gone to Accord Party and now he's also doing thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. That's the slogan of Accord Party. So he has gone to Accord Party to protect himself so that he will at least be on the ballot. What will happen hereafter? Will he return to the PDP? Well, it is for him to decide. But whether he returns to the PDP or not, all that is in the future. But he wants to be part of that competition. The major challenge that he now faces is to build up the Accord Party, because what most of the people in Osun State know is the umbrella. So now he has to do a lot in terms of saying thumbs up, thumbs up. Well, he's also lucky in one regard. Accord Party is the first on the ballot list. But quickly, let's extend the analysis. Now, what are we facing? Some people have said we're facing the prospect of a one-party state. There are 17 states in the South. Out of these 17 states in the South, only 3 are still in the opposition. Oyo State, Makinde's PDP in Oyo State. Abia, where Alex Oti remains very firm in Labour Party. Yes. There's still one more state. There's one more state. There are 3 of them. Osun now, that is in Accord Party. Now, if you go to the north, there are 19 states. Out of the 19 states in the north, Bauchi is PDP. The only other state that is in PDP is Taraba. Taraba is governor. No, the governor, Kefas. He has announced that he's going to the APC, but he has not declared officially. Then you have Zamfara. So you have Zamfara where you still have the PDP in place. So if you look at it, out of 36 states, how many do you have? Maybe probably about 5.
I think Mufam too has gone to the APC.
No, he hasn't Plateau. He postponed it based on all the...
Okay, so let me just land with the analysis. What it means, therefore, is that between now and 2027, you may still have some other states that will go. So that's why people say, we have the prospect of a one-party state. Yeah. However, the game is not over until it is over. Is it possible that in the lead up to the 2027 election, the other opposition parties, seeing that they have lost out, that the election has been won and lost, in fact, this morning, we can call the election and say that the APC is going to win the 2027 election? What if the opposition parties now decide that we are not going to be part of the 2027 election? Then you have a situation similar to what you have in Côte d'Ivoire and what you have in other African countries. And that will now, after the election, raise questions of legitimacy. I go quickly to Omar Toure, Dr. Omar Toure, the chairperson of the ECOWAS Commission, saying that there is an emergency in West Africa. Yes, there is. Because 5 out of the original ECOWAS member states have left, or they are under military rule, right? Yeah. Burkina Faso, Guinea-Bissau, Mali, Chad, and, one other country, and then within the Burkina Faso, and then within the axis, then you see that Gabon, Madagascar further south, Chad, all these countries, they've also gone. So if you look at the environment, the neighborhood, you look at the ECOWAS itself, the ideals of the founding fathers that this will be a body for democracy has been violated. Mm-hmm. But Omar Toure made very important point. He said that all of these crises are linked to elections. And he says it is also because of political practices in ECOWAS. In other words, leadership. Yeah. You have seen in Cameroon, you have seen in Côte d'Ivoire, you have seen in Togo, you have seen in even the Republic of Benin, the so-called African leaders violating the constitution, removing constitutional term limits, either because they want to keep themselves in power perpetually, or they want to put their own nominees in the place. So we have this crisis of democratic retreat rather than the reality of democratic consolidation in West Africa. He talked also about geopolitical pressures being responsible. I'm quoting Omar Toure now, for coups and botched coups in West Africa. And it is real. West Africa has certainly become a playground for the international players. France has lost his foothold. He's trying to fight back. Russia is in Burkina Faso, is in Mali. The US is finding every way possible to get back into West Africa and to hold Nigeria as the strongest, biggest country in West Africa. So West Africa has become a playground for geopolitics, for powerful primary superior powers trying to control this environment. And our leaders do not have the capacity, either mental or institutional or infrastructural, to see through all of this. And they don't have competent, really competent advisors. Or maybe the advisors just suck up to the geopolitical realities that they are faced with. So this is where the challenge is. And for this reason, I think Omar Toure is right to say that we are facing an emergency in West Africa with regard to leadership and democratic consolidation.
Leadership and democratic consolidation facing a crisis on the West African region. I don't think a lot of people would argue with that, especially following trends that have happened in recent times. Let me come back first of all to Nigeria. And when we talk about democratic system of government, what we have is a federal system. What we have is a system where there are three arms of government. We have the executive, the legislature, and we have the judiciary. And each of them are supposed to work effectively and independently to check one another. Now, what happened yesterday on the floor of the Senate was not in adherence with the terms of that. I say this because what Senator Serake Dixon had called for was in order. An opportunity, even if at the end of the day the senators will still vote to support the president's intervention in Benin Republic, was an opportunity for Nigerians to listen to a robust discussion around pertinent issues. Some civil society organizations have raised this point, and I quite agree with them. A few things that could have been debated, especially in the interest of public knowledge, would be around what the specific mandates the troops will have, what would be the terms, anticipated duration, what would be the cost to Nigeria in terms of personnel costs, how would it affect our internal security, or as we are fighting currently, to what extent would our troops be stretched? So these are some of the questions that ought to have been discussed, looked through, and in fact, some proposals around, could there be other forms of intervention, just in the way that we had during the Niger coup crisis. So the fact that we didn't have an opportunity to robustly debate that on the floor of the Senate yesterday, I believe was a great disservice to the Nigerian people. Yes, like the Senate president had read out yesterday, that every one of the senators must have seen the communique from the president. However, it would have been an opportunity for the people to actually discuss dimension, understand the issues, break it down, and actually be able to, justify their position and decision to ratify the president's actions in Benin Republic. And so they can't vote in the interest of Nigerians, in the interest of Nigeria's national security. But I do believe that we robbed ourselves an opportunity to actually have a deep end discussion around the issues, and even perhaps prefer, alternative means of dialogue, of interventions, or even additional means in that regard. And so I think that was an opportunity missed. Now, going on to the defections, and I'll put that in with what the president of ECOWAS said, Omar Toure, alongside what is happening in Nigeria currently. He had said that democracy is under threat, which we've talked about a number of times here on this table, especially in West Africa, and perhaps that is a reason why we've seen the number of coups happen around the region. What I would say to that is that the first thing when we saw the speech by Governor Siminalayi Fubara was that he was saying that his defection was based on an appreciation to the president of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I thought it was quite sad that a governor who is supposed to be there on the mandate of the people's vote did not acknowledge or mention the fact that he was doing it because of the people who supported him. Remember, because when he says and he gives all the accolades, or at least majority of the accolades to the president, is that those Rivers women who blocked the streets, who protested, who came out in his support in the early days of his fight with his political godfather, what happens to them at this point? Those Rivers elders who consistently came out to say that they were backing him, they were in support of him, they were defending democracy, said a number of times that they were doing it for posterity's sake and to defend the office of the governor. What happens to them? How about those who came out during the elections in 2023 against all odds to come out to exercise their franchise, to vote for him? What happened to them? If at the end of the day, the most important person when it comes to governance is one figure who is the president, then we have a real issue on our hands. And that's why we keep talking about the office of the citizen and the understanding of the power that ought to be rested in the hands of the people through the ballots. But unfortunately, because we have seen flawed elections, a lot of people do not even rely on, respect, or give honor to the people who are supposed to have put them in power. And I thought that was quite an unfortunate speech for him to have made, acknowledging the president and saying that his defection was based on a thank you to the president for all he had done because he would have become ex-governor despite all that had ensued in the last, shall I say, 2 years in Rivers State. Now to Osun State, the difference with that speech, and I use that as an example, was that the governor of Osun State actually cited ideologies of the Accord Party, saying that it aligned with his own visions on welfareism. And I thought that was a better speech to have made. At least we understand, especially when we talk about why individuals choose a particular party to run on, it's based on ideology. I mean, it could be, we can talk about the politics of it, but at least positioning and defending the fact that it was based on his own. And we can see what, in his tenure as governor in Osun State in the last 2 years, he has focused a lot on welfareism, welfare system of the citizens and all. And so I thought that was a better speech, and that we must begin to make a demand on elected political figures to actually respect the mandate on which they came in, especially through the ballot, and we empower the office of the citizen and ensure that citizens actually get the dividends of democracy. If not, like what President Omar Touray said, we'll continue to see actions because there's a general discontent. Democracy and the people are not enjoying the dividends of democracy, and that is why they would perhaps even call for an alternative, which is not in the best interest, as we talked about a number of times. Military coups are not the answers on the African continent. A number of things to get through, but I believe that when we do get into World Brief, Newspaper Review, our guests for today were able to break it down even further and discuss some of the pertinent issues that were raised earlier today during the news.